Hey folks, it's Dr. Brent, and I am here to talk to you about week 5. Believe it or not, week 5 is here. We are actually over halfway through the course. If you haven't already done so, please go back to week 4 and do the mid-semester evaluation. Your feedback is really valuable, and I really appreciate it. It's very helpful in terms of being able to make the course better for future students, as well as get good feedback on what works as well as what doesn't. All right, having that done, set out of the way, I wanted to tell you a little bit about week 5, which is the Blue Light Special, the Circle of Sexual Health and Reproduction. And the first thing I want you to do is click right here and watch this awesome, wonderful video called The Birds and the Bees, Parents Explain. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful film that just talks specifically about how parents talk to their kids about sex, sexuality, reproduction, birth, contraception, conception, the whole thing. And it's a really wonderful, great little film. So check it out. But again, whenever you see this little stoplight, I want you to stop and look both ways and take a look at this particular sentiment that is expressed here. Parents are indeed the primary sexuality educators of their children, whether they choose to be or not. And a big part of that has to do with role modeling and the kind of nature of the relationships they build with their kids. Intimacy, physical and emotional affection, experiences of nakedness, bodies, sexual health and openness to sexual differences, etc., etc. So check that out and think a little bit about that as you're watching this film. In addition, if you haven't already done so, I believe I sent this to you already, but if you haven't checked out the SIECUS Guidelines for Comprehensive Sexuality Education for what should be taught when and all that kind of good stuff, it's a wonderful resource. Please do. All right, this week's assignments. There are 3 different assignments for this next week. Of course, always go to your objectives, readings, and media course folder to look at all of the necessary information. Textbook chapter from our text this last week, articles from Yarber, Side, and Strong, chapter 3 and chapter 4, which specifically have to do with anatomy and physiology, which is really critical, and then a whole series of recommended readings and various videos. 1, Bad Sex Ed, More the Birds and the Bees, Sex Ed Maps, Al Vernacchio, which basically talks specifically about sexuality needs a new metaphor, and where did babies come from. All right, so let's head on back. Okay, first assignment is pizza delivery. Who doesn't like pizza? All right, so for the first assignment, I want you to watch TED Talk, Al Vernacchio, Sex Needs a New Metaphor. I just showed you the video. It's all about how the notion of the baseball metaphor is problematic for sexuality that is pervasive in American culture. And I want you to answer these questions about why the baseball metaphor is potentially harmful, and then why Al's pizza metaphor is really beneficial. And then consider one client scenario where the baseball metaphor might actually continue to be harmful for client's sexuality. Response prompt: in what ways, obviously to one classmate, in what ways might the pizza metaphor be helpful for that client, and what roles do the values circle play in this kind of intervention? All right, that is your first assignment. Second assignment is the sexual health swap. Sexual Health Swap takes you to Scarlet Teen, Sex Ed for the Real World. It's a wonderful sexuality education website specifically written by teens for teens. Some of my former students actually help run it, and it's a wonderful page providing all kinds of comprehensive information for adolescents with regard to sexuality. I'd like for you to go to that webpage and succinctly summarize the content of one of the particular pages that you select. So go to that page and select a link somewhere on that page and summarize it succinctly. Succinctly means short and to the point. And then identify how that information might in fact be useful to a client. So all you got to do, I just want you to interact in some way for the material here. You also have to, of course, follow up with one classmate and reflect on that post and what role does the values circle, that is what people think is right and wrong. How did they come to learn what those values are? How did they experience that? Where did they get those messages? Do they affirm confirm or change those messages, et cetera, et cetera. And how does that interact with the kind of information and or intervention that might be reflective here? All right. Last assignment for this week, week 5. Mini assignment, Sex Ed Web Quest. So what I want you to do is there are 2 scenarios that are presented here based on this ultimate scenario. One is that you're a social worker with a family service agency seeing a mom, single mom, Janine, and her 2 kids, daughter Alex and son Tyler. Her kids have 2 separate fathers, neither of whom are currently in their lives. She is seeking guidance from you on parenting around sexuality with her children. I want you to look at both of these scenarios and then follow each instruction. So scenario 1, I'm not going to read them. Scenario 2, I want you to search these websites, not Amazon, amaze.org, scarletteen.com, sex, etc. Please note it is SEXETC. Do not go to SEXECT. That's not safe for work. And then the Guttmacher Institute's policy-specific website. That's for both scenarios. And then answer these questions about 4 or 5 sentences each. What kind of information would be useful to provide, et cetera, specifically for Alex, or this one is specifically in relation to Tyler. So submit that accordingly. It is a mini assignment, so there's no responding to other students. All right, if you have any questions or anything of that nature, please feel free to email me and I will respond as soon as I can. Thanks so much. I hope you have a great week. Take care. Bye-bye.